everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is, wherever you are. My name is Kelly Clement. I am your YouTube host today. I am so happy to have you here for this presentation with Jeff Gibby of what is new inside MetaStock 18. We are so happy to have put out MetaStock 18. It is amazing the reception we are getting around MetaStock 18. What people are loving, what they're what they're using on a day-to-day basis with MetaStock 18. We're loving hearing it. So if you do have feedback, we'd love to hear it. In the meantime, we're going to get started in about 5 minutes with Jeff Gibby. We are going to be talking about what is new inside of MetaStock 18. Here's just a quick glance at what we're going to be talking about here today. It'll let me scroll. There we go. So the big thing we're going to be talking about is next level charting, the next level charting inside of MetaStock 18 and all the things and the enhancements and everything that we've done to make the charting inside MetaStock 18 better than ever before. So that's what Jeff's going to be focusing on. We're going to talk about the charting, indicator updates, drawing tool updates, power console updates, Optionscope updates, quote center updates, system updates. So many updates, it's just I'm having fun saying updates. So anyway, we're going to be getting started here in just a few minutes. Let me go ahead and take that back. So I'm going to just check in with Jeff, make sure everything's good to go on his side, and I'll be back with you in a few minutes. But as you come in, go ahead and say hello. Tell us where you're coming in from. Again, we're here in Salt Lake City, where it's a little snowy, a little windy, pretty cold, but we need snow, so we'll take the cold. So that's okay. But welcome. I'll be right back with you. Okay, yeah, it looks like Jeff is all ready to go over there. So we are excited to have you in here again. Thanks, Conrad, for saying hello. Sorry you're not going to be able to stick with us. Have fun at work. But we're going to be getting started here in about a minute and a half. Again, we're going to be talking about the awesome new features inside of MetaStock 18. There is a lot to learn about. Jeff's very excited to show it to you today. We're all very excited about MetaStock 18 here. So let's go ahead and get everything prepped, and we'll get started in 1 minute, 15 seconds. So we'll go ahead and check right back with you. Okay, looks like Jeff is all ready to go, so we're going to go ahead and get this show started. So again, today is What's New Inside MetaStock 18 with Jeff Gibby as our presenter. You all know Jeff, he's awesome and he's amazing. We'd love to hear from Jeff, so let's go ahead and get this party started.
All right, thanks, Kelly. Appreciate that. I'm going to instantly take these off because I don't need them because I'm talking today. Hello, everybody. I hope you're doing well. As you kind of pop into the room, make sure to say hi and where you're from. I appreciate that. It's nice to see people in here. Conrad, have fun at work, and I hope you enjoyed the replay. So welcome. I appreciate you coming in today. Thank you. Today we're going to talk about all MetaStock 18 all the time. We're set to go for about an hour today. Will probably go just a little bit longer, so please be prepared for that. This upgrade is probably the biggest upgrade we have released in at least a decade. It's huge, and I want to kind of make sure that we kind of go in and show you all of the new things that are in there, the new things that have actually been changed. So in any case, the first thing that we're always going to do is we're going to read a legal disclaimer. So today's demonstration is designed to instruct you on using the MetaStock and the accompanying software plugins. It's not a recommendation to buy or sell, but rather it's guidelines to interpreting and using specific indicators and features within the software. The information, software, and techniques presented today should only be used by investors who are aware of the risk inherent in trading. MetaStock should have no liability for any investment decisions based on the use of the software, any trading strategies, or any information in connection with the company. So thank you, WB. Thanks for saying hello. Welcome to the thing today. Okay, my name is Jeff Gibby. I do have both the GoToWebinar question panel up and the YouTube question panel up. So if you have questions as we go through, if you have things that you want to know about, feel free to please interact. Like I said, I'm just going to go through the 18 functionality. We're going to spend a lot of time on it. 18 is really a big upgrade. We've basically done a completely new chart. So we're going to spend a lot of time in there talking about the new capabilities of the chart. We're going to talk about some things that we added to the Power Console to make it even easier to use and some of the things that I really like. We'll talk about Optionscope and all the changes that we made to there with adding risk graphs and put call ratios and top options. We're going to talk about Quote Center. We're going to talk about some ease of use features that have been added, some new systems, some new strategies that have been added. And we're not going to actually talk about the last bullet here, but if you're using DC, you don't have to log in twice anymore. You could just log in one time. And that's the only time we're going to bring this up in the whole PowerPoint. But it does make the program easier to use if you're using the DC version, because you have to have a separate set of credentials for MetaStock and a separate credentials for the data link. You just have one set. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start we're mostly going to talk about charts. And this is, I like all of the upgrades. The MetaStock just keeps getting better and better. But at the heart of all technical analysis is charting and the ability to look at chart. And for the longest time, we've wanted, and for a long time now, we've been working on this new chart engine that we wanted to release and get out. And so this is a culmination of a lot of work that's been done by the programmers here. And I just love it. It's going to be we're going to jump straight into charts, but it's really difficult to kind of explain to explain just hey, these charts look crisper, they're more responsive, they seem to be more real time, they're just new, they look nice, they're very, very sexy as we go through them. So, and you'll notice that as well. And so, but let's go ahead and go into MetaStock. I've got a chart of the Dow. Looks like we're testing a low today, and we just closed just a hair above this last low that we had from January. We're certainly in an interesting part of the market. The first thing that we're going to talk about is the charts, is the kind of charting styles and the customization that can be done. So the first, that's I've got just a kind of a blank chart, so I can kind of walk you through all of the new charting styles. So of course we've got it set to bars. Let me go ahead and kind of double click, and we'll just go into the properties here. And I just want to show you kind of the different kind of settings that we've added for our brand new bar charts. So right here we've got this set to bars. You'll notice we have an up color, and a down color. We have an up down mode and a weighting. So, and the up down mode is actually pretty cool, because before, when you, with the old MetaStock charting engine, what you could do is you say, oh, if it's an up day, I want the color to be this color. If it's a down day, I want the color to be this color. And usually the up would be maybe green and the down would be maybe red. But the way that that measurement was done across all of the charting styles in MetaStock is it was based on a close to close relationship. So look at the close today. If it was higher than the close yesterday, it's a green bar. If it's lower than the close yesterday, then it'd be a down bar or red based on the default here. One of the things that we've actually done, and this is based on a lot of users' requests, is we've added a new calculation mode for that. And mostly we did it for our candlestick users, but we've included it here in bar charts as well. And that's the ability to look at open to close. So if I wanted to have the relationship painted based on if the open was above the close and not what happened yesterday, I can change this methodology, and I can change it from up down to close to open to close. And if I apply that, then an up day would be any day where the open is above the close, and a down day would be any bar where the close was below the open. Okay, there's some other things that we're going to kind of talk about as we kind of go through there, but there's also other things that have been kind of added that are cool, and part of what any modern chart engine should have. One of the things that I like is if anytime you're coming in here to adjust a color, if you click on the advanced color, you'll have RGB settings that you can use, but you also have an opacity setting so that you can actually set the clearness of a bar. And I'm not going to play that with that on this chart. Let's go to candlesticks and kind of show you how that open-close relationship works on that. So I'm going to go ahead and go to candlesticks. You'll notice I'm going to go ahead and apply it right here so you can instantly see what this looks like. You'll notice the up color now is based on a green, and it's also, you can fill in the green. Okay, and so if you want to have a filled in candle, you can do it. By default, it's going to be filled in. Okay, down color would be red, and a down fill, you'd have a little bit of a red here. Now, you obviously do have the complete customization control over this. If I wanted it to be kind of a fainter color for my fills, I can come in here, I can go to the parameters, and if I click on just advanced here, I can just say, hey, let's drop the opacity on that down quite a bit. We'll go ahead and click on this, and we'll go ahead and click on apply. It's still filled in, but you'll notice that it's just a lot more subtle. And I actually prefer that as a fill color. Actually, I prefer hollow candles, completely hollow, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. But I prefer kind of the, for the fill colors for the bottom, for example, I prefer to have a bit of a more of a clearness so that I can kind of see the indicators a little bit clearer that I've got on a chart. And you can do that absolutely with MetaStock now. Okay. Now, the other thing that we've got in here, if we're in this dialog box, we do have that up-down mode. By default, it's going to be an open to close relationship. And this is a complaint. This is to address a complaint we've had from a lot of candlestick customers for some time now. If you're looking at candlesticks, an up candle is defined the way that the Japanese rice traders did it. An up candle is defined as a candle that closes above where it opened, or an open to close relationship. Before with MetaStock, we'd always do a close to close relationship, which you still can do, but by default, it's going to color it based on that open to close relationship, which is so important with Japanese candlesticks. We also added the ability to fill. So if I wanted to only fill the low candles, or the red candles, and leave the hollow candles hollow, the up candles hollow, I can actually just change my fill mode from always fill to only fill when it's closed less than the open. And then that way I can really kind of have exactly the view that I like. And this is the view that I like. For me, I like to see my hollow candles completely hollow. And with the other one, the filled in candles, I like to see them. But I don't like it to be really, really dark red. I like it to be able to see my indicators and the other stuff that's going on the screen as well. So with candlesticks, basically those are kind of the new parameters that are changed. Well, I'm thinking about it too. Let's go ahead here. And anytime that we want, if you want to go back to the defaults, because I've changed this, I can go click on defaults, restore defaults for this page, and it'll just go back to the defaults. And you notice I've moved it back to bars. That's our default style, but it also changed the defaults in here as well. So that's bars. That's candlesticks. Some of the other methodologies that we've got is we have candle volume in here. If you're not familiar with CandleVolume, I'll just show it to you real quick. It's really, really easy to kind of understand. I've made this a CandleVolume chart, and you'll see on the days where you have a lot of volume, like this one right here, it's going to be fatter bar. Whereas if you didn't have a lot of volume, today was, we have a down day, but the volume, you'll notice that is skinnier than this. Maybe we're running out of momentum, we'll see. But you can see visually that because this bar is skinnier, there was less volume today than there was back here, okay? And that's just what CandleVolume is. It gives more screen presence the bigger the volume is and less screen presence. All of these little tiny skinny handles back here had very, very little volume. And you can see that without even looking at the volume. So after that, we've got EquiVolume. I'll go ahead and apply that. Same kind of concept. Instead, it's a filled-in bar instead of a candle, but you kind of have a box where you're open, high, close, and it's fatter if the bar is fatter. We did add a brand new charting style, Heiken-Ashi. We'll talk a lot about Heiken-Ashi today in terms of how it's calculated and how it's working. It has been a very popular charting style. It has a very smoothed approach. If you're interested in learning about Heiken-Ashi, and you have MetaStock, you can actually click on help right here, and it'll talk about Heiken-Ashi and kind of the thing. Another good resource for that is Investopedia has a really good article about how they calculate the Heiken-Ashi charts. You notice they are a lot smoother because they kind of use some smoothing into terms of the calculations that they use. But we do now support the Heiken-Ashi bars. And you can also decide on an up color, a down color, and then a fill color as well. So let me go ahead and go to the on here just a little bit. The last charting style that we have is, of course, a line. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that to the chart. It's going to be basically a line. We can have an up color and a down color with the line. But one of the things that they added a lot of what we call plot styles. So if you like to look at line charts, you'll be able to plot them in a lot of different ways. And so I'm going to show you these. We'll spend a little bit of time on them now because a lot of the indicators have these same line studies. Let's go ahead and just kind of show you what they are. So we have a stepped line. I'll go ahead and click on OK with that. And you'll just notice that instead of a smooth, you just basically get a line to the next data point. So you can kind of get a better, more accurate visual idea of where that next line is. Okay. If I come back in here, there's also a filled line. So if I apply that to the chart, you'll notice that it just fills it from 0. A step filled line, which is just a combination of that. So if I apply that, you'll be able to see just that step filled line. And then in addition to that, you've got a dot and a histogram. And dot, those are fairly explanatory. You get a dot, or you get basically a histogram. So those are kind of the plotting styles that we have. I'm going to change this back to bars, or not bars, candlesticks. I like candlesticks, and we're going to use candlesticks for kind of the balance or the rest of them. So let me go ahead and apply that. I'll go ahead and click on OK. And we'll just leave it at that view for now. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in just a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. And then we're going to kind of go recap real quick here. So in terms of the charts and the customization, the types of bars that we have are bars, candlesticks, CandleVolume, EquiVolume, Heiken-Ashi for the very first time, line, step line, dot, histogram, the step fill line, and the fill line. Not sure I needed to read that all to you. So in any case, the next concept I want to talk about is the concept of themes. And themes have gotten very, very popular lately, like with night themes, dark themes, and things like that. What we decided to add was the ability to kind of get different looks out of MetaStock very, very easily. So let me go ahead and go back into my color palette, or into my chart here. And what you're going to see right here is this new button that looks like kind of like a painter's tray. And actually it looks exactly like a painter's tray. But if I click on that, you'll be able to see all of the themes that are available. So right now I'm on the bright white, and you can tell it's a bright. I can very, very easily change to different themes just by selecting one. So let me go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and put it on the black theme here. Okay. And you'll notice turns to black. There's some very, very cool themes that are in here. Like, I'm not going to go and show all of them. This is certainly something you can play with at home. But let's see. Let's go ahead and go to dark mode here. You'll notice that it's just a dark mode. There's a black steel, which is if you have Zenith, the real-time data feed, and you like their dark mode, this has the Zenith dark mode colors, which is, I like the, or I actually have to admit, I really like the orange and the black. I think it's a good mix. Okay. One of the other things I want to talk about with themes is they've actually put an algorithm in here. I don't know if you, in the old MetaStock, you've ever changed the background color and half of your bars disappear, or like an indicator you're looking at disappears. It happens a lot if you go from a light to a dark, especially like if your bars are black. One of the things that we've actually done with the theming is there's a little bit of an algorithm where if I put on a color that kind of conflicts with the color that's being plotted by the charting engine, what'll happen is it'll modify that color just a little bit so that it's always visible. So in here, there's an oscilloscope chart view, which is not a chart view that I particularly like, but I'm going to show it to you because it's green as a background. So go ahead and go to green, and you'll notice that because you wouldn't have been able to see some of the charts, it actually changed automatically the color of some of the actual candles on here, so that I can always see them. So none of them are invisible, and that will happen with any line. If you've got a black indicator on the chart and make it into a black theme, it's automatically going to lighten that indicator so you can see it, which is a really, really helpful thing. If you've ever tried to find that indicator that was black and tabbed until you found it, that's all a thing of the past. It just changes it for you, and it's automatic. So let's go ahead and change this back to the Bright Spark theme, and we'll kind of move on from themes. So here is a copy of all the themes that we just showed you. There's plenty of them. Let's go ahead and kind of move on a little bit. The next thing I want to talk about is the scroll preview in the new charting engine. And let's go ahead and kind of talk about it. The more I love this thing, the more intuitive it feels to me, and the more I like it. But the first thing that you'll notice is I've got, like, right here, this is the amount of chart data that's loaded. You can kind of see that on the chart. You can also see kind of what the chart looks like as well. But that encapsulates all of the data that's loaded. So right here, I can easily see, this sharp drop that happened back when the pandemic started, and you can kind of see that on the chart. You can see all of the activity. So sometimes when I'm looking at trades, I like to look at a lot of breakout trades. So if we're coming towards a high, maybe the stock came up on a scan that I was running, I can see exactly, well, not exactly, I can see if we're nearing at a point that's high or a point that's low in relationship to the data that I've loaded. And that's helpful for me as well. As part of the scroll bar, they've made it very, very easy to kind of zoom in and out. So what I can do is I can actually grab here, and I can kind of zoom in and zoom out very easy. You notice how smooth it is too. I just love how smooth it is. If I scroll in, it's going to scroll in a little bit. If I scroll out, it's going to scroll out a bit. I can dictate exactly how much data I'm looking at. And I can also move to a different part of the chart. So I'm going to go ahead and basically show you what I mean by that. I'm going to go ahead and click right here, okay? And what you're going to see is it just moves to that area of the chart that I wanted to see. I wanted to see that pandemic fall. And so there we go. That's the area that I zoomed in. I'm going to do it again. We're going to go back to the end of the chart. And what I want you to do is pay attention to the animation. So let's go ahead and do that. And it's very smoothly going to actually, it doesn't jump to that part of the chart. It actually scrolls back for you and kind of does a very, very smooth animation. I think it's one of those nice touches that they actually added to the program that I really, really do like. So, so with the scroll preview, you've got the scroll preview here. You can, it's got a highlight of the current available data. I am looking at my notes right here just so I don't miss anything. You've got a preview of all of the data that's loaded. You can move them back and forth between those different smart areas on the chart. And you can also modify the zoom by just kind of grabbing and dragging and dropping to where you want to be. So that's pretty much the scroll preview. Again, if you have questions, it's very straightforward what we're talking about. But if you have questions or things that I might not be covering that you're not sure about, feel free to ask. Let's go ahead and kind of go back into that PowerPoint real quick. And we're going to talk about all of the customizations that's available with the indicators. So let me go ahead and kind of just switch to we're going to play with some indicators. Obviously, indicators are the heart of technical analysis, right? And there's a few things I want to talk about with indicators. The first one is like plot options. So let me go ahead. One of the other things I want to talk as we go is we didn't make a lot of changes to the way things work. So if you're familiar with MetaStock, this isn't going to be an upgrade with a huge learning curve for you. What you're just going to notice is maybe the charts are a little bit prettier, more responsive, and you like them a little bit more. And you have some more options when you go to change things. So, but what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and click on the indicator quick list for MetaStock. Again, it's going to keep track of the most recently used indicators. And then you're going to have a full list of indicators back down here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and plot a moving average for now. So I'm just going to drag that. I'm going to drop it onto the chart. And we'll go ahead and do a 21 period simple moving average based on the close. I'm going to go ahead and just apply that for right now. And right here, we've got a red moving average. There are a bunch of different options for how I can display and view this according to the way I like to see it. So I'm going to actually kind of walk you through what those are exactly. Let's go here. Not too much has changed here. You've got your time periods, your calculation method, what price you're actually doing that on. If I come over to color style, though, that's where they've added just a ton of detail. So in the plot style, I can go to step line, I can go to filled line, I can go to step filled line, and I can go to dot or histogram. I actually prefer line. I'm going to leave it there. Okay. But one of the things that I also actually, I'm kidding. I prefer filled line. And this is actually the way I actually look at my charts now. What I like to do is I have the color here and I have the fill, and I can hear Kelly's laughing back there. So he's enjoying my presentation. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead, or he's on a phone call, one of those two things. I'm going to go ahead and click on the fill color here. And what I like to do is, again, I like to see a little bit of an opacity. So right here, I'm going to just kind of move that so I can see it, but it's not terribly visible. We'll go ahead and click on that, and we'll click on apply. And so if it's below this moving average, you're just going to have a bit of a pink fill color. And this is literally the way I've got my chart set up with my 21 period exponential moving average. You also have the weight and the style. The other thing that we've added to like all of these dialog boxes is, you notice right here it says defaults. I can actually save this as a default. So if every time I put a moving average on the chart, I want it to be this color, I want it to be a filled line, I want it to have this opacity to it, I can go ahead and set that. And then every time I apply the indicator, it's actually going to apply there for me. So I'm not going to do that because this is a demo machine, but you know, that is something that's brand new. People have been asking it for this type of a change for quite some time. Okay. The other thing about indicators is, let's go ahead and apply a Bollinger Bands here. Okay. So let's go ahead and do this. I'm just going to drag a Bollinger Bands. We're going to go with the standard value. I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. And what I want you to notice is, I'm just going to point it out, is the Bollinger Bands are now filled. Okay. And you do have complete control over how they're filled. They're filled between the envelopes. If I double click on this and I want to change it, let's go to Bollinger Bands. Let's go to Properties. And if I go to Color Style, I can change the fill color. Again, I prefer a little bit more opacity. And I'm going to have to check to see if that's the right word. So I'm going to set that to both of these. Okay. We'll go ahead and click Apply here. And you'll notice that it is still a little bit of it. They're the same color, but because since this is below the moving average, there's a nice little blending effect that happens between the moving average fill and this fill line. Okay. Individually, I can control all of the lines. If I do not want to see one of the lines, maybe I don't want to, I can go ahead and click on Visible there, and I can just make that line invisible if I just want to see the lower bands for whatever reason. And that's also a new option that's available. Okay. All the values are going to now plot in the title window. So you'll see that we have all of the Bollinger Band values as well as our moving average plotting up here as well. Okay. Let's see. Plot styles are done by line, as we saw there. You can actually have different chart styles for different lines. Indicators can be a bit invisible. And another thing that they added is they added kind of a smart drop feature to indicators. So with Bollinger Bands and moving averages, when you apply those to a chart, you kind of would expect them to kind of go over the price data. That's how they're designed. That's how they're designed to work. No, Kelly, I'm good here. Thank you. No, you're okay. All right. Okay, so smart feature. I get distracted. So there is a smart drop feature, and I'm going to show that with our new MACD histogram value. Let's go ahead and drop that. If I drop that on the chart, it knows that the scaling is different, and so it's going to automatically assume that I want to put that in a new window. So I'm going to go ahead and click on OK right here. It's going to plot a new window for me. I still can move it around. I can still have it in the same inner window if I want to, but by default, it's going to smart drop that in that inner window for me. We also did add the MACD histogram, and that does give you the ability to, well, basically it's the standard MACD that's built into MetaStock by George Appel, which is this line and this line. Linda Radke actually popularized a method of looking at this where you plot a histogram, which is the difference between the top line and the bottom line. And we actually added that as a plot style that you can use as well. So that's one of the new things that we've actually added. So that's Smart Plot. The other thing that we've added based on kind of a lot of feedback is volume up down. So let me go ahead and plot that on a chart. I'll just drag and drop it. And again, with the Smart Drop, it's going to figure out where it wants to go. You go ahead and apply it to the chart, and then I'll kind of just show you how it works. Again, it opened up in its own window. You'll notice that we have green and red volume bars, and there's two different ways that you can calculate that. So if I go into the parameters page, we've got a histogram. You can have a different up color. You can have a different down color. You can save that default. You also do have an up-down method. So if I go to, I can use up-down based on the close. So if the close is greater than the previous close, it would be considered an update. If I also wanted to figure that on the volume, I could set it to volume here. And basically what that's going to do is if the volume is greater than the previous day, it's going to be an up volume day. If it's lower than the previous day, it's going to be a down volume day. So that's a new change that they've added to it. Okay, pretty cool, right? Looking at just kind of the list, and another one. So if you're a fan of Ichimoku, I'm just going to kind of start to clear up this chart a little bit. We'll take a few of the indicators off just to kind of make it a little bit cleaner, because we're going to add a lot of them here. A very popular indicator that we've had in MetaStock for quite some time is the Ichimoku Kinko Hui indicator, and I'm sure I said that right. But one of the things that we've actually added is, I'm going to go ahead and plot it on the chart right here, is with the legacy charting of MetaStock, we never had the ability to plot into the future. So you see right here with Ichimoku, there's a future cloud that's projected into the future, I think 26 or 27 days. And here you can see that on the chart. That's never been available in MetaStock before. So now it's available as something that you can actually view. So let's go back to that indicators list here and make sure I've got everything. So you get the plot styles, you can fill envelopes, the values plot in the title bar. You can style each of the plots by line. There is an invisible option. You get smart plotting indicators where it figures out exactly where you want them to be. The auto drop indicators. You got the built-in UpD. You got the new MACD histogram. You've got the proper display of the Senki span A and B. For the first time ever, the MetaStock engine is charting into the future. K21CC from YouTube it wants to know if you can just plot the Kinjin. And that's a great question. I'm going to jump to that real quick. If you just want to see one of these lines, we can go in here. And all of the parameters are actually going to be listed in this color style. And so if you wanted to just see one of them, you can set all of the rest of them to invisible. And you can absolutely do that. No problem at all. So let's go ahead and apply that. I just have one line. There you go. Good question. Thank you. All right. Let's go back here. I love when I get questions. Okay. Let's see. If you use the p variable, this might be important to you. The p variable will now display indicator values automatically. If you don't use the p variable, don't worry about that bullet. So it's a little bit further than the discussion that we're going to have today about charting and indicators and stuff like that. And that does cover what I want to talk about with indicators. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is the drawing tools that we've put into the new chart engine, and you can kind of get a preview of what we're talking about. I'll just sip on my tea for a second. So the first thing, actually my favorite part of this Well, I don't know about favorite, but I really love the new trend line. So we'll start there. Let me go ahead and click on cancel here. I am going to remove that Ichimoku, even though there's just one line on here. And we're going to go ahead and play with the trend lines here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is we'll go ahead and actually let's just zoom into this part of the chart. Let's go ahead right here. Just show you a few things. Okay. I'm going to draw a trend line on a chart. And that's, again, in the same place. So if you're used to MetaStock, you're going to be able to find it in the same place. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a trend line from here to here. And you'll notice a few things that are different about this. These aren't different by default, but they've been saved as the default, which you can do with drawing tools as well. Okay, but right here, as soon as I draw that, I can see that this coronavirus drop was a minus 37.86 drop over 27 days. That's all loaded. So where this line starts and where it ends, there's a 37.86% drop. That took 27 days to happen. Okay, that happens by default. So if I wanted to see how long the recovery took, I'm going to actually say, okay, well, let's call this the end, the initial recovery. It actually only took 52 days, which was about twice as long, which kind of makes the market drops way faster than it falls, right? But then it was a 47% raise from this low to get back to where it wasn't even back to the high. So those are automatically measured for you. And just so you know where those are, let me go ahead and click on the trend line. And we'll just talk about the new things. Before you could do a left and a right extension. Right now we've got it set to snap to period. Okay, that means that every time you start drawing a bar, it will start on a bar. Okay, and it'll end on a bar. Okay, we also have the ability to slap that to price. So if I apply that, it should go to the low, to what's closest, either the low or the high of that bar. This one is on the low, okay, and that'll just snap it to whatever the price is. We do have the left arrow. If we wanted a left arrow, we can put a left arrow here. The right arrow has been saved as a default, so it's always on there. We can also show the label. So the label that's being plotted right now is show performance information in terms of a percent change. I can also show that in points. I'm going to go ahead and change it to points. I'm going to go ahead and apply, and you'll see that now it's listing that as a 90.7998988 points over 53 periods. So you can show a certain number of bars. And if I didn't care about that, I always have I care about the data, but if I wanted to instead put a custom label on here, I could call this my recovery trend line. I could click apply, I could put whatever I want to right there. Okay, I prefer the performance information, and I prefer to look at it in percent changes. Okay, also you'll notice that there's a font setting, so I can make this a little bit bigger. Okay, and I can see it a little bit more clear. And as a default, I can go ahead and save this as the default. So every time I put a trend line on the chart, it's going to have that percentage. It's going to have that number of periods. Absolutely, I love this tool because a lot of times I'm looking at peak to trough calculations. How much did it drop? How much is the recovery? And it just gives you that information. You're not, okay, how many bars was that? 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't have to do it. It just counts them for you. It's such a cool extension. You do have the ability to do a left and right extension. You can also define the color and the style and the weight on those. I love the new trend lines. I absolutely love them. And I think you will too. You use trend lines a lot. Brian has a really good question. Will current add-ons transfer over? Yes. So what's going to happen for you, Brian, is if you call us and get the upgrade, or if you go to one of the pages and get the upgrade, you go ahead and install MetaStock 18 first. The first time you load MetaStock 18, it's going to ask you if you want to run what we call MetaStock migration utility, and that'll pull all of the charts, indicators, expert advisors, everything that you have into MetaStock. And we did extensive testing with all of the add-ons to make sure before we released that they were compatible with 18. So you're good there. Thank you for the question. All right, let's see. That's just the trend lines that we're talking about. Let's go ahead and talk about it. So with the trend lines, you have the ability to add arrows, show performance information, count the number of bars, have custom labels, snap them to price, save that as the default. Most of the drawing tools that we have can be saved as the default. Let's go ahead and actually show one. This is one that people have asked for a really, really long time, and I'm glad we were able to deliver it with our new charting engine. So let's go ahead and talk about Fibonacci's. So just to kind of show you how this can work with different drawing tools. So actually, that's not the one I wanted to grab. Let's go ahead and plot it on the chart. I wanted to actually grab the retracement. So let's try to go ahead and draw a standard Fibonacci retracement level here. You're going to notice a couple things. I'm going to point them out. The levels are the actual lines are really, really clear. I like the way they kind of display on here. You're going to have not only the actual 100%, you're going to see the actual price value. So this is 297.45. You'll be able to see that for each of the levels and what those values are. No longer have to kind of hover over it and it lists all the values and what all of the values are. You can just basically see it by reading right here. If I go into the properties, here we have a left extension. You have that snap mode where you can snap it to period or to price. You can extend left and right if you want to. What you can do though is what I want to actually point out is I can control all of the line studies by this default, this line setting right here. So if I wanted this to always be a red line, I can go ahead and click on that and it's going to very conveniently change everything red. Okay, and I can change all of the colors of the lines just that way. The control line, if I wanted that to appear to a different color for any reason, I can click on apply, change the color I want it to, and now I've got that line as blue instead of red. But what I really, really like is I do have control over the individual lines. So if I don't want to change all of them, let's say that I wanted some of them to be a little bit dashed to kind of give it a little bit more texture on the chart. This takes a minute to actually set up. I can go ahead and do that. I make all the changes that I want. I apply that, and you'll notice that I can control every single line individually. In addition to that, I can save that as the default. In addition to that, a lot of people that we've talked to over the years use their own values. So if, for example, I wanted to add like a 70, let's just say a 75% level, I can click on add, which you could do in the old charting engine. I'll go ahead and click on apply so that it shows up there. If I want that to show up every time without me adding it, I can now remove levels, add levels, have as many as I want, and then have them always appear exactly the way I want it. So I set it, save the default, forget about it. It's always going to look the way I want it. Absolutely cool. So that's that. And most tools are like that. You can actually kind of go in and control the lines in the same way. So change colors per line. We did work, if you're familiar with odds, Don Fishback and his odds probability codes. We did work with Don hand in hand on this upgrade to make some pretty big changes to the Don probability codes that I'm going to walk you through right now. So let's go ahead and find them on the chart. Here we've got it. We go ahead and kind of label this, and we'll go ahead and just drop the probability codes. Now, this is not designed to be a lesson about probability codes and kind of like what they do and stuff like that. There's a lot of documentation just to show you kind of the things that we've added. So I'm going to go ahead and double click into this. What you're going to notice immediately is you've got two probability cones. You've got kind of a darker area right here and a lighter area. The darker probability cone is going to be 68% of the time it'll stay in this level, and in 95% of the time it'll stay in between those two cones. Okay, I can add additional ones if I want, so I can go ahead and let's add 105%. Go ahead and add that. Oh, it has to be between 1 and 100. Let's go ahead and add 75. Go ahead and click on OK, apply. You'll notice we have another cone, and they're actually shaded pretty well. I can see all three cones here. Okay. It's going to, by default, use historical volatility over the last 1,008 periods. I can change that if I want to kind of make it a little bit more receptive to the current volatility. Let's just change that to 504 and see how that looks in terms of difference. And it did widen out those because we've been more volatile in the last 504 bars than we have in the last 1,008. We also set a specific volatility. So if I wanted to use a 50% volatility measure, I could set it there, or whatever I want to. We also added the ability to add a drift to it. So we can have it drift up or down over your period. So we worked again with Don on that. I want to thank him for all of the work that he put into it. But he had some really good ideas in terms of how he wanted to improve the probability cones. And this is unique to MetaStock. It's something that I haven't seen in any other platform. I'm not going to say it's not there because I'm not sure about that, but it's something that we worked hand in hand with Dawn to make an improved odds probability cone. Okay. One of the other drawing tools that we spent a lot of time is the Andrews Pitchfork. And again, we're not going to, this is based on customer feedback from people that were using the Pitchfork. Let me go ahead and kind of find it right here. And kind of forgot, it's right here. Okay, I almost forgot what it looked like. Actually, I was like, okay, where is this at? Okay, let's go ahead and click on it. And we're kind of going to draw it. Generally, to draw a pitchfork, you're going to do kind of a center line, a high point, and then a low point, kind of like that. Okay, and it basically works as kind of, I guess, like a deviation bands. And I'm actually going to redraw that because I didn't like the way that that showed up. Let's go ahead and kind of draw it right here. And now you can tell that I'm not an expert in probably in the pitchfork at all, but you kind of, anyway. All right, let me go ahead and I'm going to try one more time. Bear with me here for a second. Okay, we're going to go here, go here, go this high point. Okay, so we've got the probability going on, or the Andrews Pitchfork on here. I'll just show you kind of some of the changes that we've made. Go ahead and double click here. Here we've got the first date, the second date, and third date, because Pitchfork determines 3 points and then draws your pitchfork cone there. You can have it, again, the snap mode, you can snap that to period, you can snap it to price, or you can leave it floating. In addition to that, we've actually added render types. So a lot of people have been asking for this. If you want, this is a kind of a standard pitchfork, okay? You also have the ability to do a shift pitchfork, and you have the ability to do a modified shift as well. Now, you might be wondering what those are, and I actually did read up on what the difference between the different calculation methods are. The way I found out myself is I went to the help file right here. Our help files are always very, very good. But if we wanted to kind of figure out the difference between standard draws your center line from the first point, selected through the midpoint of the second and third point, so halfway through those two levels. The shift moves the start of the center line from half the vertical distance between the first and the second, and then the modified shift moves the start of the center line to halfway between the first and second point. So there you go, half the vertical distance. I did that wrong. This would be the horizontal difference, but anyway, those are the differences there. Okay. All right, and I think that's it for drawing tools. Let me just check the notes here. And trend lines, I love those things. Tools, snap to price or period, or leaf loading, save defaults for Fibonacci and others, change colors, change the control line colors. With the odds column, you can add second probabilities, you can add drift, you can add third, fourth, you can add cones to that. Crosshairs, we missed crosshairs. And that's why I go back and review everything. Let me show you crosshairs. If you use crosshairs in MetaStock, they allow you to kind of pinpoint prices and kind of see what is going on. What's really helpful now is you'll notice that at the very bottom here, it says, when I have the crosshair out, it says March 23rd at the bottom. So I know exactly what date I'm looking at. And if I look to the right, you'll see that it says 182.64. I can see exactly where that is labeled because it actually kind of moves around as I move around the crosshair. So that's very, very cool. The ability to kind of see exactly where my crosshairs are on the legend without putting a lot of thought into it. So, for example, if I'm trying to kind of identify where a low area here is here, this is very much analysis I do in my everyday days. That's a Jeffology. I can see that it's 248.81. I don't really have to kind of go in, draw a line, try and figure out where that line is. I can just see where those lows are. So I can kind of make decisions based on what that support area is, or what I see as that support area. So there you go. Glad I went back to the notes. That's what I do. That's a big thing. That's a huge thing. Andrew Pitchfork, you got the control lines. Oh, and easier to access text properties. That's purely easy to show. We'll show that real quick. If I put text on the chart, go ahead and save that. Okay. That's a little bit little. I'm blind in one eye and I can't see on my other eye. So if I want to see that a little bit bigger, I can just double click on it. I don't have to go into font and, it's right here. I can just actually increase the font, apply that to the chart. I can see it better. And I can actually also save that as the default. It's just they've made it easier to get to that dialog box. So I think that covers what we want to talk about with charts. And oh no, there's But wait, there's more. So let's talk a little bit about these. These are actually pretty big as well. And there's more. We'll talk about the changes that they've made to the x-axis and the y-axis and that kind of stuff. So I'm going to kind of go back in here. Let's add an indicator to the chart. Okay, we'll do Ichimoku. I'll go ahead and click on OK. And we'll have all of these values. I'm going to go ahead and cycle to the end of the chart. And you're going to notice, because I'm going to point it out, that all of the values are kind of here. You've got 350. The red line you can't see because it's kind of underneath. At least the current value is very close. Actually, no, it's way down here. So you've got these different values, 344, 331. You can kind of see what the indicators as well as the price is currently doing. Okay. I can turn those labels on or off. So if I double click, or if I double click right here on the properties, if I want to see those indicator values, I can display them. If I don't want to see them, I can kind of hide them, and I'll just get the price in that case. Okay. If I don't want to see either of them, I just turn them off. This is customizable. You can make it the way you want. Okay. In addition to that, if you want to have them, I'm going to actually turn them all on. I prefer to have them on. I can also truncate the price levels, and they'll just make them a little bit smaller. In terms of units, one of the things that we added for a lot of our futures traders is a lot of the contracts will trade in 30 seconds or 64s. They're fractionalized and not decimalized. And that a lot of people have been asking for us to put fractions in the program. So by default, when we plot a chart, it's going to use the symbol definition. So it's going to say, is this a futures contract? Should I use the definition of what this is traded in? Or is it a decimalized thing like the DIA, right? If I want to, I can manually override that, and I can go in and say, well, instead of just showing all of the decimals, let's just kind of show 2 decimals. I can apply that, and it's going to truncate that down to 2 decimals for me. Okay. If I want to show more decimals, I can, of course. If I want to show fractions, I could go ahead and say, well, show me this instead of in decimal, show me in 30 seconds. I'll go ahead and apply that, and it's going to go ahead and give us those. Okay, so those are pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and leave this as a symbol definition. You also still have complete control over your scaling. You can either have the auto scale or change the scaling manually if you want. Over here on the grid, they've actually added some options that I'm quite fond of. You can show major grid lines. If I apply that, you'll be able to see grid lines. Okay, I'm going to show major and minor. If I click apply, you'll be able to see both major and minor grid lines. The thing I've actually quite a fan of is actually this grid bands. So let me show you that real quick. Right here, we do have grid bands, and you do have the ability to see just kind of a shaded area. So it's subtle, kind of leaves the chart a little bit sharper for me. This is kind of the preference that I have for viewing this. Okay, so I like the grid bands. On the y-axis, let's go ahead and click on that. They've made these options, well, expandable and contractible. They've added the ability to just, hey, give me all the data. Show me all of the data that's available. I can also go in and request load the maximum, or I can load a set number of records. And they've made this quite a bit more straightforward, in my opinion. Okay, under the grid settings, I do have the ability to show grid lines, which was turned on, or grid bands. I'm going to go ahead and do grid bands and kind of show you what that looks like as well. Coincidentally, I like grid bands horizontally, but not vertically. So since this, I'm going to go ahead and do it that way. But you do it the way you want to. Do it the way you like. So there you go. So that covers that. We're not even close to getting done talking about chart. I was getting way in front of myself, but there's a few more pages to go through. So with the x-axis and with the y-axis, you have the ability to view the indicator values. You have the ability to turn those on and off. You have the ability to truncate them. You can change its display units from decimals to 2 decimals to 9 decimals. Fractions, those are all available. Usually, when you pull in the data, it'll go with a symbol defined value. So you don't have to set that manually. It's just basically going to know. But you can change it manually as well. You can also enable, disable the major, the minor, and the grid lines, add the grid bands. So there you go. For the x-axis, they improved the date view. They made it a little bit easier, I think, to set what you want to look at. They added those maximum options, which are incredibly handy to have. They've added manipulation for the x-axis for loading of properties. You have the grid lines and grid bands there, and you can make the settings a little bit smaller, bigger. So just a lot of changes that are there. Okay. Just looking for questions real quick. Other things that we're going to talk about, and these are, I think we are getting closer to where these are just some kind of miscellaneous cool things that they've added. So let me go ahead and go in and kind of talk about this on a chart. So right here, you'll notice a daily. Usually when you have a daily chart open, it's going to have a D right here. If you opened it before in an intraday period, it would just show an I, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they've actually made it a little bit easier to kind of see the different options here. So for example, right here, we've got tick, 1 minute, 5 minute, 10 minute, 30 minute, hourly. Okay, and I'll stop reading them off. And we've always had the ability to do like a custom time period. So I'll go ahead and do that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set it to just let's say a 4-hour chart. Maybe I want to have a 4-hour chart option here. So we'll go ahead and click OK here. It'll load that. And what you're going to notice right here is it says IH4 or intraday hourly 4. Okay, so that's going to make it a lot clearer in terms of what we're looking at. But I also want you to notice this right here. Now that I've done that, or what it's actually going to do is it's going to keep track of the methodologies or the periodicities that you've used. So right here, I have the standard methodologies, but the four most recent that I've used is going to be right here. So you've got the 15-minute, 75-minute, 75 tick, and 3-day. So those are it's going to have a memory in terms of if you're using custom intervals all the time. If I'm always looking at a 75-minute chart, for example, it's going to be right here. And I have to go to custom every time and just say, I want a 75-minute chart, and it's going to load for me. So that's been added. Other things that they've added, again, and then it says I am 75. It's easier to load. This also is a setting that carries over into the Power Console. So if I'm in here opening up a new chart, and in my interval setting, I'll have that 75-minute. Or if I'm setting up a new exploration, in my interval setting, I'm going to have that 75-minute. So those are options that kind of carry over into the other parts of the platform as well. In addition to that, you've got your IM75. When you're loading charts, you can actually, before in MetaStock, when you loaded a whole bunch of charts, you had to wait until they were all loaded before you could do anything. Now you can kind of change how they're being displayed on the chart or how they're windowing while they load. That's a new change. And you also have, as part of this, there's a couple of options that have been added that are actually quite cool and have been requested by customers. So by default here, we're in Utah. And the time frames that you're going to see, or the posting times, are going to be based on, by default, Eastern time. If I wanted to change that, so this is 4 p.m., which is 2 p.m. Mountain time. If I wanted to change this to something that was in my time zone, so that I could kind of reference it, I'm all used to it now, but I can actually come in here, and if I go to the inner window, or the chart window properties, right here, I can set it to a time zone, and it'll automatically calculate the difference between Eastern time, and in my case, Mountain time, and in that case, 4 o'clock would all of a sudden be 2 o'clock. You can set it to whatever time zone works for you. Okay. In addition to that, there's a few trading options that have been added to, actually, there's just one that we're going to talk about. You can have it now display an activity gap. So if there's long periods of time where an instrument that you're not looking at isn't trading, typically with the old charting engine, it wouldn't show that. It would just show you the trades when they were happening. If I want to leave gaps when there's no trading, I can say display inactivity gaps. And that's handy for like option trades. If you're looking at option trades, they're not very often, and you want to kind of see how spaced out they are during the day, you can display inactivity gaps right here. You'll notice we had a pretty big inactivity gap right here. So there you go. I'm going to go ahead and change that back, because what I want to do, kind of leave it as close to default as it was before. So I believe that is the end of the changes here. And let's just go back in here. We'll make sure I didn't miss anything. I have the most recently used selected time periods. You can the user identification that's really way more clear about what a period you're looking at. You can change the tile settings as the chart loads. You can allow the chart to show any activity gaps, and you have the time zone options. Okay. Do you guys have any questions? Go ahead and post that, because we're going to move on from the charting. We are going to go a little bit long today. I mean, it's a huge update. But if you have any questions, get them typed in. I'm going to have a sip of tea. All right. Well, let's talk about the other things that have changed. I'd say we have maybe, it's almost 5 minutes to 5 here. I'd say we have maybe 20 or 30 minutes left. So just giving you a guess in terms of how long we're going to go. It is a massive upgrade. It's one of the biggest we've done. So we've made some changes to the power console, and I want to show you those. This has actually been really helpful for me for supporting customers, actually, but I think they'll be helpful for you as well. Depending on kind of like, a lot of times we'll get questions like, where does oil trade? Or on what exchange is Apple? Or, maybe you're looking for something, you're not sure where it wants to trade, but you want to know what exchange you need to sign up for, something like that, right? One of the things that we've added is that we do have the ability to sort by name or symbol. That's not new. We still have the instrument search, but if I, as a customer, want to look for what exchange something's on, or I'm trying to find something, or I want to know maybe what index that Apple is on, I can actually type in a name of a stock here or a symbol, and it's going to abbreviate my list to just show me what list it's on. So right here, I've got a local data list. Now it's just showing the S&P 500. Apple's part of the S&P 500. In my public list, I've got North America. If I drill into that, it's on the NASDAQ. It's also an optionable stock, so I know it's an optionable stock. If I want to see what members of the indexes that it's on, I can see that it's on the Dow, it's on the NASDAQ 100, it's on the NASDAQ Composited, and both the S&P 100 and 500. I can see what indexes it's on. I can, in addition to that, see what sectors it's in. It's in the technology, hardware, and equipment group, and the information technology sector. So I get a lot of information just by typing that in. Okay. If I'm a little bit less specific, if I'm like talking to somebody that wants to know all of the exchanges Apple trades on, I can back off the .o, and then I can tell you where that trades in Asia, Europe, Middle East, or whatever, right? So a lot of information there. If I'm just interested in terms of oil and what exchanges I can trade oil on and what the different symbols are, I can search for oil. And then if maybe I'm a futures trader here, maybe I want to just look at the ETFs that have oil in them. So I could come in here, I could go ahead and click on oil, and you can see right there all of the ETFs that list oil. So I like to trade a lot of ETFs. That's an incredibly useful use case for me. You remember like when lumber was going absolutely ridiculous. If I wanted to find an ETF that measured lumber, for example, let's type in lumber and let's see what comes up. In terms of the ETFs, I didn't see anything that mentions lumber, although I know there is one. In any case, in that case, maybe I'll go to Google or something, but you kind of see how useful that can be, just to be able to find all your oil ETFs, or maybe you're looking for an S&P ETF. It's a really easy way to find different instruments that you may not otherwise know about. So there you go. In addition to that, let's go ahead and go down to the scanner. The Explorer, as we call it. Before in 17, we had at the top of the list, you had a list for favorites, and you had a list for all of your explorations. And we still have the idea of favorites explorations, but now it's a different tab, so it's a little bit easier to find. So if I click on favorites, all of my favorites will be right here. If I go back to all explorations, I can go into here and see explorations. Okay. Another thing that we added is search on this as well. So if I wanted to find all of the systems in MetaStock that I've got installed that have the word MACD in them, I can go ahead and do that. And you'll see that all of these explorations now have MACD in it. Maybe instead I want to find Bollinger. It's just a lot easier to find what you're actually looking for and get a specific list of the things that you want to look for. So nice changes there. That is true also with System Tester. Same thing. Again, you'll have your favorites at the top instead of as a plus mark. You'll have all of your systems here. And again, if I want to find all the system tests that start with Bollinger, or not starts with, doesn't have to start with, that mention Bollinger, they're going to be in there. Okay, so that's added. In addition to that, covered that, we covered that, we covered that. Down here in the chart tab, if there's options that you never change in here, they'll just kind of be a little bit cleaner. You still have the options there. You can minimize and maximize the ones that you want to change. Otherwise, they're hidden. Okay, so that's the Power Console update. Okay, all right. But wait, That's not all you'll get. All right, so in Quote Center, a couple changes that I want to kind of talk about in there. Let me go ahead and kind of go back into MetaStock. We'll walk through this. What I'm going to do is we're going to go into Quote Center. I'm going to open up just a list, the constituents list of the Dow. Okay, so if I wanted to, I could do this with like sectors if I have like the sector package. But if I want to see a quick idea of how many of the Dow constituents are open, or let's say you had your portfolio list open and you wanted to load that up, anytime I open up a list in the Quote Center, there's going to be something new. So let me go ahead. We're on the Quote Center here. I'm going to actually do a custom list. What I'm going to do is we'll just open up, for the purposes of today's show, we'll just do the Dow Industrials. We'll do those 30 stocks. So go ahead and open those up in Quote Center. And the biggest thing you're going to notice right away is the grid settings are kind of up here. They're easy. They're kind of in a place to go. But we've added a gainers losers bar. So obviously, for the Dow, it's kind of a bullet bearish day. We had only there's I think 2 stocks that were up a total of 6% between or an average of 6%. While the other 28 of the 30 Dow constituents were down 93%. So you have that right there. You can kind of scroll through that. That's a new thing. If you load up your portfolio, hope it doesn't look that bad today. But you would be able to see exactly how many are up or down for the day as well. In addition to that, we did put the grid up here. So all of your settings are going to be up here. We also made it so that it shares themes with Optionscope. So if we set this to the dark orange theme and we go back into Optionscope, it's going to assume that you want to actually see the dark orange change. It's there. So that's one of the changes that they actually set together in Quote Center. The other thing is if you open up a chart from here, what it's going to do is it's actually going to load the last chart template that you use to open a chart with. So if you're in the Power Console, and you, whatever this right here is set, right now it's set to Smart Chart, whatever template that is set to is what is going to happen or open when you double click on a chart to open it, either in the Quote Center application. So that's it for Quote Center, really. You have your gainers and your losers bar. It shares theme settings with Optionscope, and you use the template settings to open up the template setting that you've got from the Power Console to set those. Okay. We made a lot of changes to Optionscope, and I'm going to talk about those now. So let's go ahead and open up Optionscope, and we'll kind of go through these real quick. And 3M is fine. I'm going to go ahead and just basically close things down here. And go back into MetaStock. We'll look at the options for 3M, not for any particular reason other than, wow, 3M was pretty down today. Let me go ahead and just basically open up an Optionscope window. It should open in that default theme that we were looking at before because those settings are now shared. You'll notice that on 3M, I'm going to point out a few things right here. You're going to have up volume and down volume, and open interest up and open interest down. So immediately you can see that there's way more put open interest than call open interest, and a little bit more call volume than put volume. Okay, so that's a new thing. The one thing I want to point out with this is a put call ratio based on what you're looking at, based on what your settings are. So what I mean by that is if I come into the grid settings, I've got March and April. I'm just looking at these March 18th and April 14th. I'm looking at between 15% of the strike price. I'm looking at the monthlies. It's going to be the put call ratio is calculated off of the actual options that are loaded. Okay, so it gives you a clear view of what's going on this page. Isaiah, thank you. Welcome from Seattle. Thank you for coming. In terms of a free trial, what I would recommend is what we call our extended trial. So just to answer your question real quick, without getting too far off topic, our extended trial, you can buy a month of MetaStock and you'll get a second and third month for free. We'll also set you up with somebody to talk to you about MetaStock, help you get it installed, walk you through some tutorials on the program. We'll provide training with it. So we call it an extended trial. That's what we recommend. If you want to find out more information about that, I'd say, number one, thank you for the question. Thank you for your interest in a MetaStock. Give us a call at 800-882-3040. you can go to metastock.com/sales chat. They can get really specific about kind of what your options are there. So thank you for the question, though, Isaiah. Appreciate it. Okay. The other thing that you can do with this, I'm going to go ahead and kind of close the grid settings out, is if I want to see the option that had the most volume or the most opened interest, I can click on this top button. It's going to load in, and you'll notice it scrolled down. Today, this is the stock. This is not the option, not the stock, the option that had the most volume. If I click on open interest, same thing, it's going to highlight that for me. If it's not on the screen, like if it's down, it'll scroll down to that and then highlight it. If it is on the screen, it just highlights it so that I can see it. In addition, I'm going to kind of make this a little bit bigger. We have this whole new section where we can now, and I love this, you can actually go in and put risk graphs up here. So let's go ahead and just try to show you how this works. Right here are the strategies that are built in. I'm not going to read all of those out to you, but you've got, there's about 9 of them, and I've got them listed all right here. Okay. If I just wanted to do like a long call, I'm going to go ahead and do a long call. It's going to basically, with the long call, we're buying a call. It's pretty easy, right? So it's going to fill out call and buy. I can type in an instrument, or I can type in a strike price and a buy price and a number of contracts if I want to. Or I can say, well, I'm going to buy this call. Let's go ahead and kind of just highlight one. It will automatically kind of calculate that. So that's the call that we're going to go buy and buy. Here's our profit loss. You do have complete control of the way that these are colored, which lines are shown, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I had the legend for a minute. Here we've got our total cost. The cost of that option would be $570. So that's our maximum loss because we're just buying the option. Okay, we don't have unlimited loss. Here's a price that this is kind of where the long call is currently at, 142. Here's your underlying price, which is 144, and our break-even point. So the point that the stock has to go up to where we would break even would be 147.70. So that's actually shown for us as well. Okay, as we kind of get more and more profitable, if this stock goes up to 180, we'd make $3,172.60. We'd hypothetically make $3,178.60 of profit. That's just calculated for us. Okay, so very, very easy to use. This is something that I'm really glad that they added. Before we had this in Optionscope, but I had to go in and manually enter all the values and figure out what the volatility is and stuff like that. It's all done in the background. I can come in here, and if I wanted to do, let's say a long straddle, I'm going to pick my first and my second instrument. I'm going to get a total cost right here, which would be 836. I'm going to get my break-even points, where my long calls are at, et cetera, et cetera. It's just done for you. And of course, like in the legends, you can determine what lines show up, what colors everything is. It's fairly intuitive. So those are the changes that they made. And let me just make sure I didn't miss anything. So now you do have the put call ratio for the option sentiment. You can view the view on the most open interest or volume. You can actually go in and you have the option strategies. And here's that list I promised for you. You've got the bear put spread. I'm not going to read them all. You can read them real quick. You can customize the colors. And again, it shares those settings with the thing. How do we do it on time? So we're about 7 minutes over. I think we're going to go, actually, I'm going to reforecast my time. I think we'll go another maybe 10 minutes. We're getting close to the end. It was a big upgrade. I'm also getting a little bit faster about talking about it. So, all right. Let's go with the water here. All right. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is with MetaStock. One of the nice things about MetaStock, and this isn't certainly to be a demo of all the power tools. That's not what we're doing today. But one of the things that has been core to MetaStock is the ability to test training ideas, see what works well. Want to scan for them, get really good advice in terms of what it is. And one of the add-ons that was developed by Robert Dedman and the Trading Systems Analysis Group is an add-on called the Performance Systems Plus. And if you've been using MetaStock for a while, you notice there's a lot of PS systems in your list. There's about 26 of them. And there's always been an add-on that we call the Performance Systems Plus that adds another 54 systems to the thing that's gives you a total of 80 systems. So it's our best-selling add-on of all time. It was one of the first that was released. And it's a really, really cool add-on because it adds a lot of testable ideas, a lot of scannable methodologies, and a lot of expert advisors. And so you can really give a lot of more power to MetaStock. We negotiated with Trading Systems Analysis Group to include this add-on with every version of 18 that we sell. And so here's a list of the additional 54 systems that you're going to get. This add-on used to cost $299 for itself, but we made a cash payment, I guess, and we bought the rights for it so that we can just include it because we love this add-on. This is probably one of the best add-ons just in terms of the systems that are included and the methodologies that he used with the system. So when he went through and tested the trading ideas, he tested about 10,000 combinations of stocks and symbols. He used daily stock data. He tested them with no trade delay. He didn't use stops. What he wanted to do is find the systems that had the best trade efficiency. So they were deemed desirable if the trade efficiency was positive for more than 50% of all the stocks analyzed. And he did test these against, he omitted, not included, low priced and low volume stocks. So whole ton of testing. He went and grabbed a bunch of systems that had tested and just figured out what works, came up with 80, and released what has been our best-selling add-on of all time, the Performance Systems Plus. This add-on is now included for free. So I'm very happy about that. It's a lot of different systems to include. And if you're doing system testing and you just want to get an idea of what works, if I come back into MetaStock, I'll close Quote Center for now, or Optionscope for now. But if I come in and I just want to test those methodologies, I can come in here. And instead of looking for Bollinger, I'm going to go into PSP, or I'm going to type in PS right here. You're going to have all these systems available that are built into the box that you can test with. There you go. There you go. It's a really, really good value add. Okay. In addition, we worked with Daryl Guppy. Daryl Guppy's hugely a great technician. But what we wanted to do is actually provide a few things based on his work. And we were talking to Daryl Guppy, and what he wanted to do as a gift is provide you his ATR stops. So let me go ahead and kind of show you how those work. What I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and apply just a MACD expert will work here. And I'll just show you how this works in terms of practice. Let's say we were trading on a MACD, but we wanted to use Guppy's ATR indicator. So I don't think I attached that properly. Let's try again. Oh, here it is. Okay, good. I did do it properly. Notice right here with the MACD on 3M, we would have got a sell signal right here. Okay, 120.22. I even have a pen. It's my pen. I'm going to actually make a note of that day. 1222. So I'm going to show you how the indicator works. So let's say we're going short here, but we wanted to use Daryl Guppy's ATR stop. So it's in the indicator quick list. And what I'm going to do is there's a long version and a short version. Since we're going short, we're going to use the short version. I'm going to go ahead and plot it on the chart. It's going to ask me for the start of the day of the month. So we're going to start it on the 20th, January of 2022. Okay, we're going to leave the default periods to 14 for the average true range. You can change that if you want. And there's two different ways that it can break. Since it's a stop, if it penetrates, if the high goes above the stop, we can stop the stop there. Or if you want it to close above the stop, that would be the second and the default calculation. So if I want to have it break on the high, I'll change that to a 1. Otherwise, if I want it to break on the close, I can set it to a 2. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click on OK right here. We'll merge that with the scale on the right. You'll notice it starts where we get that buy signal. There it is, there it is, there it is, there it is. Now, we never really penetrated that stop loss. It's still in place. If we're trading on that, the current value of it is 151. As long as we stay below 151, we're going to be happy. If we go above 151, we're going to go ahead and stop out of it. Okay, let me show you kind of how it stops out. Let's say for sure this MACD signal, if we would have taken this long trade, that was on 12/22/21. So if I put the long one on here, GT ATR long, okay, and we'll put 22, 12, 22, 21. Okay, we'll go ahead and leave the defaults as they are. Go ahead and click on OK. We'll merge that with the scale on the left here. You'll notice here was the stop loss. It did update for us, Here was penetrated. After it's penetrated, it no longer updates. It just goes flat because you're no longer in that trade. So it's a very, very visual way of looking at that. Okay. In addition to that, we made some small changes to the Haguro system. The Haguro system is a system that I want to thank Gary Burton publicly for the work he did on it. We put together the Haguro system. Gary Burton provided all the knowledge. He got it from a guy by the name of Siki Shimizu, who wrote the Japanese book of charts. It's a really good system that's in MetaStock. It's always been in MetaStock. There's some videos on our YouTube channel that you can kind of watch on it. The only thing we really changed about it is there's some things in there where it looks for a 7% volatility. And because we're in such a more volatile environment since the coronavirus and since the pandemic and all of that kind of stuff, we've moved that up to 10% so that we would, so just to compensate for that volatility. So some small changes there just to kind of compensate for kind of current market volatility. And but if you haven't looked at the Haguro system, it's really cool. You should look at it. It has been in MetaStock. I think we included it starting in 17, maybe 16. I don't know. Anyway, that's pretty much what we're going to talk about with today's webinar. I hope you agree. I mean, I can't even fit it into an hour, but I got it within an hour and 15 minutes. It's a huge upgrade. You know, it's one of the things that we've been wanting to do with MetaStock is really kind of start to overhaul the charting engine and kind of get it really, really modern and fresh and looking good. And they did such a great job with it. So I hope you're using 18. If you haven't got it yet and you want to try it, if you're a new customer, you can go to metastock.com/P222, sign up for MetaStock. If you want to do an upgrade and you want to do it online, you can go to metastock.com/MM222. Of course, you can give us a call. We have some really, really great representatives here that are part of the team that work with us, and they'd be happy to talk to you. You can give them a call at 800-882-3040. You can also chat online with them at metastock.com/sales-chat. I hope you love the upgrade as much as I do, or a little bit. Like maybe half as much would be fine. I think it's one of the best upgrades we've had. I think that about every upgrade, but this one definitely is very large, very significant. I hope you enjoy it. If you need anything, let us know. If you want to reach out to me directly, you can. My email is jeffrey.gibby@metastock.com. I'm going to close it there. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your time. I hope you learned something. Thanks for using MetaStock. If that's an applicable statement for you, I want you to stay healthy, you stay well, stay safe. I hope to see you at the next event.